This video is going to be a Ducati Monster timing cam belt change. I'm going to show you that actually it can be done at home. It's fairly simple, and I'll tell you a story about a couple of guys a few weeks back who came to view this bike and told me how it cost £500 to change the belt, and I let them talk for a while because they talked themselves into a hole, and then I said to them, actually it costs 50 quid to buy the belts, and you can put them on yourself, or you can pay a mechanic £110, £120, and they'll put them on for you within an hour. So I thought, do you know what, my mate's buying this bike now, I'll do the belts anyway, I'll show people how to do the belts, and that's going to help a lot of people out. Plus Aidan will have the bike and the belts done. Now these belts were done a year ago, however it's not in the paperwork that it's been done, so I want to at least check the belt at this stage. If I take these covers off, which is this one and this vertical one, and the belt looks like it's a year old, you can tell, I may just keep the spare belts that I bought and put them on another year. I'm not sure yet. So the first thing I need to do is lift the tank a little, take the back seat off so that I have access to the vertical cam belt. So I'll come back when I've done that. So this is the position we need to be in. The tank's up on its stand. I'll just check the air filter. I've taken the cover off. It's fairly new, it's fine. It's definitely less than a year old usage wise. Now we needed to lift the tank because we needed to get to these screws as well. So the next step is this cover, and this cover needs to come off so that we can check the timing belts. All these wirings and stuff, you just need to move them gently and pull the cover out. I don't know why some people seem to stress about that. It's just working it out. There's no huge difficulties there. So we do all the Allen keys, undo them, we slide the top one out, or down here if that works better, and we take this one off. So again, that's the next step. Very easily, except for this one. That's fine. Right. Probably have to come out through the bottom. Of course on this one. Down here. There it is. So, on close inspection, the belt looks a touch worn at the back there. You can see them worn spots. The tension's fine. I definitely would have done another year on this belt. Would have been a waste changing it. However, I am going to change it. because I've got the new one, and that gives Aidan 2 years peace of mind in regards to the Ducati servicing manual, but actually in reality it's 5 years peace of mind. You really don't need to change these every 2 years. That's kind of silly. I understand why Ducati say that, because if they snap, you lose your engine wrecks, but they just last longer than 2 years. Right, how are you coming out? Up here or down? Let's take you out the way. See if that helps. There it is. Second belt. Also fine. But I'm going to change it anyway. So there are 2 methods to do this. First method is we find all the top dead centers. That means this here, it's a dot and somebody's painted it, goes up to here, this dot here, and this dot goes to, where is it? This one down here. Okay, that's one way of doing this, and then as long as them dots stay pointed to where they're meant to point, then putting the new belt on just slides straight on, and it's absolutely fine. There's no issues there. We can also do a method where I put a bit of paint on here. Someone's done that on the top dead center anyway. Put a bit of paint on here, and that shows me where I'm taking this belt off, and I put a bit of paint here, and then I count the squares in the middle, and I put them back on in regards to that paint. Now I think that's the method I'm going to do today, because you have to take the spark plugs out, and you know, to spin the engine over freely, and the paint method is just easier. So I put you know, a dab of paint there, and I paint on here, and then I know that the new belt has to come back to the same point. If throughout this process I find it's difficult and the paint method isn't fully working, then I simply don't start the engine at all. I take the spark plugs out, and I put all the timings to top dead center, and we just stick the belt back on. So I'm going to consider what method I'm going to do for a minute, and I'll come back and let you know. So here's the method I'm using. In fact, let me set this camera up properly and just make it taller again. Yep, here's the method I'm using. I've got some green gloss paint here on a paintbrush. I'm going to mark the carrier and one of the teeth. As long as this green shows, we'll be fine. So I'm going to mark this tooth here, and the carrier here. This tooth and the carrier. So I've marked a tooth and the slot that that tooth goes into. Now you have to bear with me, this will make sense later on. I'm going to do the same thing on this side now. So I just need to see I'm going to mark a tooth. I'm going to go for this tooth because I can see it, and then this carrier, that tooth and that carrier. Now if, again, I feel like this isn't working very well, then I just won't start the engine. I'll go take the spark plugs out and I'll go back to doing the lining up all the marks and putting the belt on. But this is a good way of doing it as well. If you don't want to take the spark plugs out and spin over the engine and all of that. I'm going to put my paint and paintbrush aside, and next thing is to undo the tension belt here using maybe same, or is it a bit bigger of an Allen key. So as you can see, the bottom belt's off so that I can mark the top belt. I've put one mark already there on the top. The bottom bit's a touch harder to do because it's a second pulley, but it's still accessible. Get some fresh gloss green. Make sure I find the tooth. I'm going to use this tooth. That's going to go to there. So that tooth to there. So we've got separate markings now on all four of the pulleys. Here is the first one. You can see the green there, and there'll be another green there. And I'll show you the process that we use. This should slip off. The tension's off now. When all else fails and you can't be arsed messing around, get out a tough pair of scissors and cut that bad boy off. There you go. See that spin? Bottom one stays the same, top one spins. We're going to keep that as close as possible. Although we'll need to be putting some pressure on it when we redo the belts. So top belt is cut, bottom belt is flat. So we'll do the top belt first. So this is what we do. Brand new Ducati belts always use originals. Some people will disagree, but they're like 50 quid. Well worth using the originals. Put one aside, put the other one near. Okay, great. So now this is what we do. We mark one mark over here, which is this one. And then we count how many there are just to check the second mark is okay. So 1, 22, 23. So from green to green, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. From green to green. 5, 23. So it's actually that one. So well worth counting and not just looking, because I would have easily gone one ahead by mistake. I'm just going to exaggerate the screen a bit so that when it comes to putting it on, it's easier. These belts don't have a specific direction, so you don't need to worry about that. Now I'm just going to let the paint dry for a few seconds only, and then I'm going to start putting it back on. Now you can see that the timing is loose. That's what you need. This one's not as loose, funny enough, because the nut's a little bit tight and rounded off, but that will still be fine. I've loosened one. That will absolutely work. So let me just show you that actually. So where are we? In here is the that's what tensions the belt. I'll show you how we tension the belt. It's all done by eye. To be fair, even with that tensioner fully off, you saw the belt was hard to pull off. So any tension on it at all would be fine. But I'm going to show you specific tension. Basically, we shouldn't be able to turn the belt too much. It should turn to 45 degrees between both wheels. So you get the belt in the middle and you turn it, and it should be able to turn to 45 max. If it's tighter than that or looser than that, then we tighten it a bit more. That's the Ducati way. It's 45 degrees. So this belt can start going back on. I'm going to be very careful as to how I line up the marks, and I'm going to make sure I don't rub off the green. So I'm going to do the bottom one first. It's very hard to do this with the camera so close. I'm going to put you aside. So that is actually one off. So I'm going to come back out. I'm going to go round, and I'm going to go back in, making sure it's exactly sitting within. That is spot on. I'll show you that. So watch when I tension it. It sits exactly on its spot. Show you again. Exactly on its spot. Okay. Now we're going to do the same up here. Hopefully it's easier than earlier when I had to cut it off. This wheel turns, so we can turn. Give me a minute, I'll come back. So there we are. Put a bit of pressure on the belt. Top mark is on the top mark. Bottom mark is on its own mark. Let me just put a bit of tension on the belt. See that? So this time is exactly where we took it off. Now I'm going to tension this up. It's very simple. It's the same process. pull the tensioner in. We test the belt, remember 45 degrees. It's roughly. And then we tighten up the screw. I just want to make sure. Needs to be a nice tension. I'm going to get some help. There we go. Now I'm not being rough with the bar. I'm just using it because it's hard to get into. Check roughly before torquing it. We go in the middle here, and that turns roughly 45. Do I want to put a bit more tension on that? I don't really, although I may do. We'll go a little bit more this time, a little bit more, not too much though. Again, torque both just roughly so that we can check the tension of the belt. Perfect. I'm leaving it like that. I check my lining up marks again. That's spot on. That one's spot on. This belt is exactly where I took it off. I'm going to tighten the nuts that hold the tensioner. I'm still not that worried about if it wasn't perfect, this, because the belt was so hard to get off even without any tension. But that is absolutely spot on. Turn it there, 45 degrees. Turn it there in this long part. Perfect. Same deal now with the bottom one. Let's see if I can get a better angle. It's hard to film and do this, and the belts are tight, so it's quite rough. Actually, funny enough, I haven't lined up the belts yet. That's dead, that's gone. That's the original belt. That's the new belt. So somewhere over here, I'll do my mark, and along the top. Perfect. Again, I'll count the teeth. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 21, 22, 23, 24 this time. 1, 2, 24. Put the green on, check again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Perfect. Spot on. Again, I'm going to make the mark just a bit more prominent. Try and keep it neat on, see, that's a mistake. Try and keep it neat where exactly we want it to lie in the engine. We've got that one there, we've got that one there. So, this one moves, but it's roughly where it should be. This one stays still. We'll go this one first. I'm going to pause this again. And so this, I've swapped, I put that side on first this time, make sure it lines up. Come along here, I know that that's not on yet, I'll do that in a minute. Slid this, bent it, and that slides straight on. Now that needs to come up and into there. Now I need to loosen that nut a bit more. It was rounded off, so it's not as loose as it should be, but I'm going to work that and get this tension correct. So that's back to where it should be. I'm going to tighten the adjuster as before, check the tension. Nice. It's about exactly what it should be. No issues there. I'm going to torque that down, and then we're going to see it. I'm going to fire it up basically, as long as this battery's not dead. I haven't run it for a week. I'll throw the airbox back on. We'll torque it up with the casing off to see what's going on under there, and of course to make sure it starts and nothing's skipping or jumping. So at this stage, airbox is back on. Fuel tank goes down for a minute, and we fire the bike up. We see the belts turning. We see if anything looks out of the ordinary, and if it doesn't fire up, we've got our timings wrong, potentially wreck the engine. If it is all timed appropriately, which it does look to be, because all the marks line up, then we've got 2 to 5 years on these belts, and no one can complain, which people tend to do with Ducati belts, because years back they were a pain and people didn't know how to fit them, and it cost kind of £260, and it just kind of gets people's backs up. They go online and they Google what to look out for on a Ducati, and people say the belts, and then actually I've just showed you here that you can do the belts in 20 minutes. Very simple. I couldn't even get one of the adjusting nuts undone. I still got the belt on, it's still torqued and tightened to the right spec. So do it yourself. Spend the 50 quid on good Ducati belts, throw them on and fire them up. But I hope I didn't speak too soon. I need to drop the engine and start it up. All or nothing. Cam belts, timing belts changed. Now we don't run it for long, because all the wiring here, anything can be rubbing off it. That's what the actual protectors are for, okay? So I just needed to check that it all spun over and lined up, and we're ready to go. The lines come off at certain points. Don't let that fool you. That's just because of the rotations. That will also go back to where it should be on the next rotation. It's complex, but it's normal basically. If the bike starts, runs and rides like normal, then you've done a good job. Nothing to worry about. I'm going to check all of the torque bolts again, lift the tank again, put the side covers back on, and we're ready to go here. Just neaten it all up basically. Look, the fuel line's caught. Here we are, we're back to where we started, which is great. Cam belts are done, old ones are on the floor there, new ones are on the bike. I'll probably print off the eBay receipt for the actual Ducati belts there, but to be fair, anyone interested can look at the YouTube channel to see that it's been done. Once again, this bike just needs to fire up and idle for a few minutes just to double check everything. Anyone wondering about the ticking sound you get in the engine? It's the clutches on a Ducati. They make that ticking sound. Tick 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 tick. It's not valves. It's the clutch. If someone comes to ever view your Ducati and they wonder what that noise is, it's the clutch. And if they don't know that the clutch makes that noise, then they probably shouldn't be buying a Ducati at this stage, because it will just panic them. They'll think the engine's bad. But I'm glad that's done now. Cam belts are done, changed, the bike's ready. As I said, Aidan, my mate and watcher of this channel, is buying this bike, so I'm glad it's all done for him. It's now ready, it's serviced, and the air filter was spanking, it's brand new. The oil's good. I checked and topped up the oil recently. The front brake I worked on, and I put new fluid in. Can't remember if I changed the pads, I may have. But yeah, it's a great bike.